The short squeeze is still in play with the stock market now pushing up to all-time highs. That's both for the Nasdaq as well as the S&P 500. And we spoke about this may lead to the next pump in Bitcoin. And we'll talk about what that looks like today. Is it going to happen now, or do we still have to wait a couple more weeks before we see that? So smash the like button, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel. We'll get straight into it. We need to talk about where we at least in terms of this crypto cycle right now. Are we in the late phase? Are we in the at least optimistic phase? Are we in the depression phase? I guess it depends what coins you're holding in terms of what the answer is going to be for that. So we'll get straight into it. You can see on the daily, a lot of the coins still pulling back over here, coming into some of those fair value gaps, which we actually spoke about yesterday. Some have already tagged them. Others are still on their way down there. So we'll talk about, where there is any sort of trade opportunities that you can look to in terms of those coins. Remember, yesterday we looked at things like WIF was one of them. I think 𝗨 was another one of the coins that we looked at, and we'll review those in today's show. So smash the like button. Also, tomorrow, look out for the show tomorrow. We'll be showcasing a very, very interesting tool, this little hexagon looking thing. Make sure you watch tomorrow's video. It's going to be really good on that. All right, let's go into the stock market. Pretty much breaching all the way into new all-time highs over there. On certain, it depends if you're looking at the futures chart or not, but we have seen all-time highs officially. If you look at the futures trading at all-time highs right now. Looking at that expansion, we do have a little bit of a diagonal over there that's going to provide some resistance, but this is what we're looking at to usher in that final phase of the bull run, what we called wave 5 of the Elliott wave count. We're still working on confirming the substructure wave 2 low, but Bitcoin's looking very close to confirming that since it's closing above the 50% level of the retracement from the high to the recent low. I'll show that to you as well. So all is looking good and well. But what's more interesting about the stock market is this. If you look at how often the S&P 500 has peaked for the year each month since 1980, what you can conclude is the following, which is if you do actually happen to close June positively, what that means is that it's very, very, very unlikely that the market will top in June. It's never topped in June since 1957. If a new all-time high did occur in the month of June, the SPX, or which is a stock market, the S&P 500, has never made a final high in the month of June, which means you're looking at continuation, and therefore the most likely time period for a major top in the S&P 500 is actually at the end of the year. As you can see over here, average total annual returns, November, December, it gets larger and larger as you move towards that end of the year. So December looking like a very, very likely outcome, which lines up with the base case probabilities for the crypto market to put in its all-time high and eventually finish the market cycle in October, November of this year, 2025. So that's interesting. If the stock market keeps grinding up the way that it is, we expect that Bitcoin should follow suit very, very, very soon. You're about to get that short squeeze into the liquidity at just under $109,000. That is starting to mount and build over there. There is one or two things that we need to look at, though, that's a little bit of a cause for concern in the very short term. The immediate term, we already outlined the bearish divergences, which are still present, which hopefully will be invalidated. That's on the weekly and 2-week scale. But in the very short term, there is a massive options expiration, which is happening today, and the max pain prices are a bit lower. So if you do get those lower moves down today into those fair value gaps, that provides the opportunity. And then we expect that leading into next week, you're probably going to squeeze into those regions, thus confirming wave 2, where the red arrows, we highlighted this to you previously. We're consolidating above the 50% of that retracement from 0.1 to 0.2, which means if you're above that mid-level, you drastically increase the chances that you are confirming that low. That's on Bitcoin. Many altcoins look a little bit worse for wear and are not in that position. But for this position to play out, you expect leading from wave 2 to wave 3 is actually going to be the strongest position of the market cycle, the most aggressive upside moves. And that means we need liquidity to come from somewhere. Right now, we don't have much liquidity, but Jerome Powell is going to be speaking next week. Maybe he'll bring the liquidity, right? Will he pump the bags? We'll have to just wait and see. But anyways, in terms of that liquidity, we are coming off of very, very, very low volatility. You can see the Bollinger Bands getting very, very tight. Now, if you're using a very simple way to determine, are you in a position of strength or not? Well, you can view the top of the Bollinger Band as a range high, the bottom as a range as the range low, and then the orange line as the mid range. And right now, as long as price does hold above the mid range over there, off of low volatility, When that volatility begins to lift off and expand, well, that could provide you that upside move, which leads into the final phase of the bull run, which is what we're looking at over here, entering into the party zone. And then we need to be really, really careful of the, of course, resistance line coming in for the RSI. So we're reattempting the orange one. This is our secondary resistance line. The primary resistance line is going to be the white one. That's the most important one. This is the secondary one, which did reject price the first time. So we'll see as the RSI comes into that level, if we can start to confirm closes above that, that will drastically increase the probability that wave 2 is in. And we're moving from wave 2 to wave 3, which is going to be the biggest, strongest move from here to here, and then just understand where your resistance levels come into play. You also got that MACD resistance line over there. You can see coming into that trend line right now for those moving averages on the MACD. So a lot of work to be done from the bulls also to invalidate this. Now, of course, that's the bullish hopium case. The bullish hopium case is that if they can break above last week's high, which will also take out the prior 2-week candle high, then you're leaving the trading range, because right now we have an inside bar. We have last week's bar prices trading within that range, meaning you haven't taken out the high or the low yet. And whichever side you take out first is most likely going to be the next directional move. Now, if it is the upside, I would fully expect that you're going to see the momentum oscillator run through this trend line over here, very similar to the secondary trend line that we have for the RSI, which is the orange one. A breach through that level can get people FOMOing into the market, and that's where you get the biggest, strongest moves, which is totally in alignment with what we're viewing over here for the medium to high time frame. Is moving from wave 2 to wave 3 to complete that wave 4 to wave 5 larger Elliott wave count, right? So that's what we're waiting for over there. Now we can look to the total cryptocurrency market cap to determine somewhat signs of strength. There you do have low lows and lower highs in a corrective formation over here. So there it is. We really need to start to see price reclaim 3.36 trillion. The good news is that if you measure from the high to the low, you are consolidating above the mid level, which is the 50% level at 3.23 trillion. And the more candles you close above here, the higher the probability is that you'll start to move towards the upside. And we're still waiting for that. The other coins are, or at least the other market caps, are not in an as strong position due to the rectness, if we can use that word, of the altcoins, with the high, the low, and the mid-range price consolidating, of course, where underneath that mid-range. So once again, total 2 is lagging, total 3 is lagging even more than total, than the total 2 chart. And if we go to the others chart over here, also very far behind, needs to reclaim the blue box over there. So still a bit of work to do. And the work that needs to be done over here is basically what we're suggesting is if you can bounce over here and you can reclaim the 50% level, you just put in a bit of a safer position to say, hey, you know what, this number 2 count in the Elliott wave substructure looks very likely to be confirmed, and therefore you have an invalidation on your long trades where you can place your stop loss underneath. Whereas if you just buy in now, of course, you get in at a lower price. You get in at a lower price, like you might be buying altcoins, 15, 20, 30% high, depending on which ones you're looking at. That is a 12% move on the others chart. But the difference is that buying a little bit higher over there means you have a higher probability. It's about the probabilities. There's a good chance that you remain in this weak area and then you just continue to melt down. So that's the risk that you take, right? The risk that you take is you either buy here near the lows early with a high risk that it falls through with no confirmations, or you take on less risk, but you buy higher. So you pay a premium for that as an insurance, right? That's the way that you trade. It's up to you. Some people prefer the more aggressive approach. Completely up to you what you want to do. Just understand where we're at within the crypto cycle. I think that there's a time and a place to be more aggressive and a time and a place to be a bit more conservative. So we'll get to that. Now, as long as Bitcoin continues to consolidate above these moving averages and EMAs, which is most notably the 9, the 18, and the 50 EMA, which is all bullishly postured, then the higher the chances are that you'll start to add pressure into this. And similar to the stock market, you should lead into a bit of a breakout and follow suit. So right now, the main thing that the market is going to be contending with is, of course, those options expirations. I'll show you what the max pain level looks like in a minute. But remember, any pullbacks that come into this is what we outlined a couple of days and weeks ago, is that a lot of buyers are going to try and step in at this fair value gap. 103,500 is the price for Bitcoin. And let's quickly see for ETH. I did also give the ETH one. Let's just double check it. For ETH, we'll just redraw that very, very, very quickly over here. So for ETH, this is going to be the level that buyers are going to be stepping in, 2,300. So BTC, I'll give it to you again, 103,500. If that options expiration comes in and does move price into the max pain scenario, look at that as an opportunity. And then for ETH, 2,330, give or take, within that region, that's going to be the high low. The good news is also the longer that Bitcoin consolidates up here, you can see that the 𝗏𝗏𝗏 EMA ribbons over here are beginning to slowly turn green once again, which is a good sign. But again, you have that overhead resistance, which you're contending with, also coming off of still low volume. The volume hasn't turned up properly yet. And here is your max pain. Max pain, $102,000. That's for the huge options expirations, which is coming out later on today. You know, I think that's like $15 billion worth of notional value that's going to expire today. So the most amount of traders get wrecked if it closes at 102,000. That's what max pain means. And this is the way that options work and trading in general. Most of the people will get wrecked most of the time, right? Most people lose money most of the time. The market is designed to take the most amount of money away from the most amount of people most of the time, which is pretty brutal, but that is the odds that you're playing with. And this is where the most people get hurt. Bitcoin down to $102,000. What I like about that is it's still totally within the realm of our fair value gap. You'll be maybe wicking just a little bit lower, but you'd be testing that fair value gap over there. So do keep that in mind. And then what about ETH? Well, ETH, 2,200. What was the level I just gave you for ETH? Let's go back to it. The fair value gap for ETH is coming in with the mid-level, the equilibrium, 2,330. So maybe a little bit further down, and that gets you exactly in line with that 2,200 level and still gives you the chance for maybe a bit of a high low. Now, we know we have the bear moon. The bear moon is there, but you know, you have to use it contextually with the broader picture of everything else that's going on. Trend is the most important thing. So if you are holding up high highs and high lows, you have to ignore those types of signals. But do we have high highs and high lows? The answer is no. We do not have high highs and high lows. In fact, if you are viewing this as a trend, this would be the start of the trend shift with still red candles, right? Lower lows and lower highs. Your most optimistic case is that you pull back into this fair value gap, hold it, defend it, put in a high low, and you know, and people probably start to look at this at that point in time as maybe like some sort of a inverse head and shoulders over there with a neckline coming in over here, and then you break out, right? So that's going to be the best area of spot if you do get a pullback into to actually start to allocate into the market, and hopefully the volume comes up as well. So where are we within the cycle? I think it depends on what coins you're holding, right? And I'm sure that most of you can attest to that and agree to that. You know, I think that Bitcoin's probably somewhere around here. You know, it's caught between this belief and thrill. That's for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin could continue to mark up with the stock market higher and lead into euphoria. I'm a genius. We're all going to be rich. That should send Bitcoin 125,000 and above, right? Where's altcoins? Where are altcoins? Altcoins are not in a good place. Altcoins are probably situated somewhere around here. Depression. Maybe if we mark up a little bit, there'll be some sort of a disbelief rally. This is a sucker's rally. Don't buy it. So, you know, it's been pretty brutal. It has been brutal for the altcoin sector. I think you need to be very, very, very selective in terms of what you choose. And I think that the message over here is, you know, this is the part where most people mess up in this part of the crypto cycle, is that instead of riding the coins with strength and the strong trading moves, they decide to seek out the coins that are down the most. They look for things that are down 99%, which, yes, you're in depression, and therefore that is theoretically good value for money in terms of risk to reward. But what you have to understand is that these depression ranges can hold sideways for very, very, very long time, right? You can just range over here for months and months and months. So I think that the lesson over there for most people is focus on the, you know, top position coins, large market cap coins, things like Bitcoin, ETH, maybe Sui, Solana. Yeah, really that hype's been pretty good as well. Stick to those types of coins. So where does this leave us going forward for the rest of the cycle? That's the question, because, you know, eventually Bitcoin's going to finish this euphoria phase. It's going to start to move down. It's going to drop into complacency. You know, we just have to cool off a little bit. It's a very difficult phase to identify, and then it's going to start to mark down. And in certain instances, you can make the argument that, you know, what happens if you are over there based on these bearish divergences, which I'm leaning towards should break out, right? I'm leaning towards that you should invalidate these, at least this one over here with the what do we call this one again? 𝗪𝗏𝗡𝗊𝗍 indicator that's coming down. I'm still leaning towards invalidating that. But what if you don't invalidate it? You do have a confirmed red dot. And we're going to get a lot of interesting information over the next 2 weeks because we also have a 2-week one, which did have a red dot, but the red dot is beginning to disappear, or it has disappeared completely. But if we start to close any lower, this red dot's going to reappear. And the red dot on the 𝗪𝗏𝗡𝗊𝗍 indicator on a 2-week scale is very, very, very powerful. And that could send you a lot lower, right? So this is why we need to be careful of, and we need to consider both sides of the coin. But many wonder, well, what comes next for the cycle? What happens after the euphoria phase, complacency phase, anxiety, denial, and you lead into panic? What is going to be the top things for the next cycle, the top narratives for the next cycle? This cycle was very much a meme cycle, a little bit of AI agents, things like that. And we've been receiving questions like, what should you look into next? Now, Rand has actually been speaking a lot about this, and I think that it's very telling, which is the looking in terms of crypto stocks. And we spoke about this as well in whale room yesterday, that a lot of the crypto stocks have less downside risk, but similar upside reward. Whereas, let's say you buy a certain altcoin, you have the same sort of upside reward, which is maybe 200, 300, 400% gains, but your downside is maybe 99%, which is absolutely insane, right? Whereas you look at some of these stocks, then you can be talking about possibly your worst case scenario in a downside turn down, which it will always recover because it's a real business, but it's probably around 60%, you know, things like Coinbase, things like Robinhood, etc. But your upside is also still 300, 400, 500, 600% upside. So there's good opportunities over there. So what's going to happen next cycle? You know, I think that this Genius Act will play a big role. The stablecoin supply 2025 cryptos convergence year. Genius Act has been passed by Senate. Bitcoin ETFs pull in 2.2 billion plus. So we're seeing this massive shift into a more serious asset class for certain things. You know, institutions are coming in, Wall Street's coming in. And then this is also a big one. Real world DeFi stablecoin adoption will surge things, right? So regulators, institutions, and innovators are finally aligned and legitimizing the space in the market. And I think that, you know, stablecoins will continues to become an even bigger and bigger thing within the market. Now, this is the interesting part. The interesting part is if you have a look at this, like Coinbase, obviously putting in a massive move over here, coming directly into theoretically what's your upper boundary of resistance. So you wouldn't want to chase price, but any pullbacks from here are likely to break out to 515 to 656. And that's coming off of a huge cup and handle formation. So some big moves. And then you're also looking at Robinhood, which doesn't inherently deal with crypto, but also breaking out in a very, very similar way off a very similar pattern with a big cup and handle formation and heading all the way towards the targeted level, which is coming in at about 123. So some pretty big upside moves over there. Now, what I think that you'll start to see is a lot of the positioning is going to be to gun for the one-stop shop, to try and provide absolutely everything within this new cycle or sector. Stable coins, you know, ETFs, real-world assets, stocks, Forex, commodities, basically everything, where you have one place where you can come and trade absolutely everything. And I think that you're seeing Coinbase and Robinhood kind of you know, converge slightly into that, where Coinbase wants to start to allocate into, you know, tokenized, you know, stocks and basically you're seeing it already on a lot of exchanges. Bybit have already done it, and Robinhood are also trying to move a bit more into the crypto sector and offer stablecoins. So I've been doing a little bit of research, and one of the places that I found, which I think could also be really big in the future, is this MultiBank Group, MultiBank Global Market Trading. They're offering Forex. You can see over here, they have their crypto exchange sector. They also have a real world asset sector. And this is the move that you're starting to see. What I find interesting about this is because I think that real world assets is going to play such a massive role. These guys are also offering a $3 billion portfolio with luxury real estate, specifically in Dubai, which is one of probably the most explosive markets in the world, very similar to London, New York in the very, very, very early days when those cities started to expand and explode. So you can buy real estate tokens and earn up to 8% APY. And I think this is what you're seeing is the one-stop shop is the builders are already building over there. So fractionalization of property. We heard about this as a pipe dream in 2017, and it seems like it's officially over here. So one of the things that I am looking at is these potential platforms that could, own that space. And if you look at BNB, which was, of course, Binance, this is their native token, which you have to use as gas. And any projects that want to list over there, they basically tell them, you have to be holding a certain amount of BNB tokens. And that's consequently why you're seeing the chart do this over time. It's been pretty substantial. Look at that all-time low. This is actually how, for those of you that don't know this is how Rand turned, I think, something like a $5,000 investment into $40 million. $5,000 to $40 million is basically getting into the IPO or the ICO phase of BNB. And this is the type of percentage returns that you're looking at. So I think it's worth looking at some of these. And if this multi-bank does prove successful, they look legit. They look like a giant. They are going to be launching an MBG token. So I think keep an eye on that. I'm not advocating that necessarily you buy the token to turn 5,000 into 40 million. I think that obviously it's become much more competitive and difficult compared to the ICO phase. But I think that, watch this space, watch this kind of space over here. This is the move that we're starting to see within the markets. So let's continue on with some of the altcoin requests. The reason I mention this, by the way, is because some of the top performing coins have been, have a look at this again. TRX, Tron, a lot of these crypto exchanges, pretty much there's the chart. This has done like a 5x in a market where most of the coins have gone down 90%. So maybe we shouldn't be fading this. We should be looking at these coins as well going forward and seeing who's going to own the space of essentially owning everything, right? Real world assets, stable coins, stocks, commodities, Forex pairs. I think this is one likely candidate. Anyways, continuing on over here. Total liquidations. Let's see quickly the ratios. So you currently do have almost 51% short versus 49% long, thus increasing the probability of that short squeeze in the very, very, very short term over there. Let's see, going back to that, we have 24-hour liquidations, relatively low. They're not too big over there. We saw also massive inflows in the ETFs. Sometimes that can signify a local top in the short term, which is why you want to watch out for that max pain expiration, which is happening later today. But if bulls can hold price up above that 50% level, it's going to be significant going forward. Now, another interesting thing that I found over here is I was having a look at the parallel channel that we've been tracking for the Bitcoin dominance, which has taken it all the way back to the 0.786, which is a common stop and reversal point between the 786 and the 886. You'll see it time and time again that if you can mark out a trading range from the high to the low, you oftentimes push up into there and then you start to pull back. So having a look over here, I have highlighted a little bit more closely the possibility of a rising wedge, right? You can see over there. There is a little bit of a rising wedge. We'll make it nice and big in yellow. This is really, really starting to squeeze into a very interesting spot. So maybe Bitcoin dominance puts in one more of these and then breaks down over there. That sort of a breakdown, if you get something like that, that would essentially be, I guess, the best that we got for an alt season within this cycle. I'm not convinced that we'll see something like this, what we saw in the price cycles. You can see each drop, well, we've only had two. We had that one to there, and then this one was about half of that. So, I mean, maybe we can measure that out. What happens if you put in half of this one? What happens if you put in half of this one? Let's quickly actually measure that out. So if you put in about half of that, from there to there, what would that look like? Maybe something like that. Maybe put in a drop, something like that. And that is the end of the altcoin season. But that would be good enough. We'll make a lot of money in that environment. Okay, you guys are asking about Nobody Sausage. Let's quickly have a look. Nobody Sausage coming into, still in this key zone. This is all the reaccumulation zone, very similar to the rest of the market, very similar to where a lot of the altcoins are hanging right around these lows over here. Okay, so you got to pick, you got to pick carefully with whatever coins you are looking at. USDT dominance as well. You really want to see a rejection from this SR flip. Maybe it comes back a little bit higher one more time to test that. If you do see one more spike up over the course of the weekend to about 5% on the USDT dominance, and you put in a lower high and reject, that's probably enough to drop prices down to 102,000 and 2,200 for Ethereum, which would be your max pain scenario for the options expirations, which can be happening later on today. Okay, So this is what you're looking for ETH. Just quickly to highlight, you haven't come perfectly into there. If you do the 2,200, you can see that's going to drop you all the way back down near those lows. No guarantees that does happen, but that's what you're looking at. And there's your prior 2-week high for Bitcoin. This is really the level to clear. If you can close multiple candles above 110,600, then you're cooking, right? Then you're ready for massive expansion towards the upside. Quickly having a look at Solana. Solana came beautifully into the fair value gap that we identified yesterday. Look at that, and it's holding. So that was an opportunity over there. Solana looking good at its fair value gap. You also have XRP coming into its fair value gap. It's holding. These are all theoretically bid zones. All of this is a buy zone. Let's use the yellow to just clean this up a little bit so you don't get confused between the levels. But there it is. That's your fair value gap. Backtest into the fair value gap, stop losses underneath, long from support, and looking for high prices. Okay, say, obviously I had a big pullback. I don't know, it's hard to catch something like this that's been pretty heavy hit. We can use the fib levels to see how significant it is. We didn't bring this up yesterday. We probably should have. But yeah, perfectly into the 50% and holding. Okay, so that is the area where you would expect that to bounce. Sui gave this yesterday as well, holding the 50% level and starting to bounce off of there. So that is one trade opportunity. It's all depending on what happens with the max pain notional value that's going to be expiring in the options market. If that does lead towards max pain, you could come a little bit deeper, mentally prepare for something like that. But so far that's holding up. Okay. Backtest. Interesting. Backtest over here on Sonic. All the way down, we spoke about the reaccumulation manipulation underneath, broke the trend line, breaks back above. Let's throw the fib on to quickly see how that looks relative. There you go, 50% level. Look at that, perfect, holding the 50% level. 50% level is the first line of support that I personally look at into a fair value gap. And then after that, maybe the golden pocket, 618 to 65, which is just a little bit lower. So that's holding up. That looks good. How's Hype doing? All right, Hype has... this is an interesting one. It's kind of just range bound over here. It's somewhat broken structure. If you are viewing this as a trend, well, it's broken that trend. So I don't know. I'd probably look towards something else. Not to say that it can't go higher. It's just a little bit more tricky in this environment. Tau, I think that was maybe one that we looked at. Yes, Tau. So also in the fair value gap, it's in the fair value gap there right now. This is the level that you want to see it hold, and you want this to start to move, soon. Let's go down to the other ones. We had WIF was the other one that we looked at. Hitting the 50% level, needs to break the downsloping trend line, but there's the trade opportunity. If it does come low with the notional value expiring later today on options, then expect this could drop to about 73 cents. Popcat. Okay. Popcat, look, I don't love it. Maybe you have a bit of a falling wedge that's taking place over here, but I don't know. I don't love it. I'd rather wait for a little bit of a higher price confirmation with a breakout, but it does look like a falling wedge. Arweave getting absolutely rinsed all the way back down to the bottom. Basically, is that even like, it's not new cycle lows 2023, we went a bit lower, but it's just not a good look. That is not a good look. Really not good. FET, so Fetch AI. Okay, has it hit? Attempting to find support over here. You haven't quite tagged the 50% level, which is coming in at 63 cents, but that would be the setup for FET. And like a lot of these coins, they are looking like little falling wedges that are coming down into, somewhat support. I wouldn't call these levels are not major support, but there's some support over there. All right, guys, what else? Fartcoin. Let's have a look at Fartcoin. It is oftentimes one of the first to move. Where's these? Here we go, Fartcoin. Let's see. Okay, Fartcoin still holding up. Potential high low in the making over here. If this does hold as a high low, all you need to do is take out this high. If you do take out this high, Fartcoin's going to start to cook. That is $1.12. If you don't take out that high, look down to 73 cents of support. All right, NEAR. We haven't looked at NEAR for a while. We even removed it off the list because it was one of the worst for wear coins. But let's have a look now. NEAR. Okay, cool. And it is still worse for wear. So we're looking at the 12-hour chart over here. Let's just move on to the daily. Let's just clean up all the mess. Okay, what have we got? It's just straight downtrending. It's not great. It's really not great. I would, potentially view this. You can see that first candle ever over there, a little bit of resistance, support, runs through. You got a bit of support over there, resistance just below, support leads to the big move towards the upside, support. So yeah, that yellow line's a bit, that's pretty significant. That's where your last wick low went into. We'll zoom in. There you go. So yeah, probably best case scenario is it holds this at about $1.85. Okay, PITH. All right, straight down, terrible, new lows. This is yeah, shocking, terrible chart. When I see charts in strong downtrends like that, I just usually throw in a downsloping trend line underneath price action and say like that's kind of your best case scenario, is you tag that and bounce. But this is not really a way to buy because you bounce and then you just go lower eventually. So the best case is that, these things do that and lead to a little bit of a bounce. And then maybe you can reverse the trend later. But the honest truth is right now it doesn't look good. SPX 6900. Okay, still holding. Yeah, let's go back on the 12-hour. We outlined the fair value gap. Look at that perfect tag into the equilibrium, the mid-level over there. Absolutely perfect test of that. This one really respects the TA. $1.13. $1.13. So you want to see a bit of a high-low form over here. Under the assumption that Bitcoin doesn't drop lower, if Bitcoin manages to hold up over here, then most of these coins coming into their fair value gaps will likely bounce from here. And that's basically what I said yesterday to the whale room members. If I just quickly go back over here, I basically gave the trade setups over here. And basically what I said is the only thing is based on what Bitcoin is doing, I don't consider these trade setups to be very high probability. Like I said, you got these falling wedges and things like that, which is great. It's coming into support, into the fair value gaps, but you get high probability trades and then you get maybe like medium probability and then you get very low probability. I would say this is somewhere in the middle to low probability trade setups over here. Why? Because Bitcoin hasn't come into its fair value gap. If simultaneously we're seeing all of these charts printing the levels that they are now, coming into their fair value gaps, coming into their key supports, while Bitcoin is doing exactly the same thing at the same relative place, then that shifts it into a medium to a higher probability trade. Does that make sense? So that's the way that I'm viewing the market right now. Remember, if you want all of this information, I'm not the only trader in here. We have absolutely killer traders, a whole bunch of them constantly giving you trades and updates, making constant profits as well in whale room. Make sure that you join. Make sure you join if you're not already joined. What I'll do is this. Do not join. Actually, don't join. Don't join. Wait until Monday. On Monday, I'll do something special for all of you that do want to join. If you've been dying to get in, I'll speak to the team and we'll see what we can do in terms of giving you some sort of a potential discount, like call it an end of month discount for whale room. Let me know in the comments if that's something you want. If you want that, type in number 1. If you want that, just type a 1 in the chat and I can quickly see how much appetite there is for that. And then we'll see what we can do. Okay, just put a 1. If you want the discount, put a 1 in the chat. I'm keeping an eye on the chat section quickly. Okay, while you put the 1 as well, smash the like button, guys. And then we'll do some giveaways as well on Monday. Okay, cool. I see there's a whole bunch of you that want this. All right. Okay, a whole lot of you. Yeah. Okay, so I'll pitch it to the team and see what they say if they're willing to do something like that for you guys. Okay, cool. What else have we got? Anything else interesting that we need to look at? Let's just quickly go through our list over here. Monday ranges haven't played out yet. You haven't really gained acceptance inside the Monday range. ETH did somewhat. I wouldn't write this off yet. It is late in the week, but I wouldn't write this off yet that you might at least play a move down to some of those low levels like 2,200. As you can see, if you did do that, that would actually be the full Monday range play, and that would be the options expiration coming in at 2.2 at the bottom of the Monday range. What about Bitcoin? Bitcoin's Monday range or options is, I think we said 100, and let's double check it. Is it the max pain is 102. So relative to the range, 102 would sweep the Monday mid. Okay, sweep the Monday mid. So if you sweep the Monday mid-range, that's probably going to be a good spot as well to look for opportunities. All right. Let's double check ETH BTC. Let's quickly have a look at some of these. Wait, that is the wrong one. Where's our ETH BTC on here? I don't want to have to retype all of this in. Oh, there it is, ETH BTC. Okay, ETH BTC chopping about. The concern for me over here would be this trend line. If you can start to break the RSI trend line that's downtrending, you got a little bit of the fake out over there, and that was the failed breakout. Otherwise, this is going to come back into the pink box, which means still a little bit of an outperformance of Bitcoin against ETH. But time will tell. If we start to close candles above and break that downtrend, then that looks okay. What about Sol BTC? Still getting absolutely rinsed. So the most likely bounce area for Sol BTC is percentage-wise coming down a little bit further, 15, 16% first level. And then as far down as 35% into the support region, I think that you'll probably put in a bit of a bounce. This one really bled out quickly. This was pretty brutal. Sol ETH. Okay, Sol ETH is right in support. But if you start to lose the yellow box, ETH's going to outperform Solana. Injective BTC, this is why you need to be careful. Look at that. Look at that chart. Let's actually go on the weeklies. Okay, Injective against ETH. Atom, oh my gosh. Do you want to see this one? Atom BTC. I know what this chart's going to look like. That is one of the worst charts in the whole world. Atom BTC. Okay, shocking. DOT, or even worse. DOT BTC is dead. So that's why you have to ask yourself, where are you? Some of these died. Some of these coins did die. You can actually vote in the poll. Let's quickly go to the poll over there. Which phase of the market cycle we're in? Accumulation of alts and expansion on BTC. It's a little bit more of a technical poll today. You have to know these terminologies and words, but let's just be real. There is no one new here. You all know this. Let's just be honest with each other. All of you know these words. You all know what it means. Death of alts, late phase BTC. You know what that means. Pre-expansion of altcoins, pre-distribution of Bitcoin, death of altcoins, and distribution of Bitcoin. You guys understand all the terminologies. There's no one new here. No one new here. That's why you got to send this video to all the new people. Maybe not this one. It's a bit complex for them, but we'll make some easier ones. Cardano BTC all the way back down to the range lows. Say BTC putting in a little bit of a bounce, but relatively speaking, it's absolutely nothing. Casper BTC straight down, and this was once the darling child of crypto leading into 2024. Aptos BTC just bleeding out. Near BTC just straight down. So yeah, I mean, some may say this is depressing, but that's only if you're on the wrong side of the trade. If you've been heavy Bitcoin, this is euphoric. This is like the inverse of that. I mean, that your where's our little invert scale? There we go. That's parabolic. Parabolic. Okay. These layer 2s just never took off. The layer 2s got absolutely rinsed. Arbitrum BTC down. Mantra BTC, look at that. What was once a massive outperformer, dead. What else have we got on here? FET BTC. Maybe worth looking at this one because, nah, it's broken. I don't like it. This can easily come all the way back down to, 323 Satoshis. WIF BTC, absolutely rinsed. Doge BTC, also getting rinsed. Had a huge move up recently. 2021 had another big pump in 2022, and each pump becomes less and less. 2024. Pepe BTC. Now this chart, can this be right? Yes, it is. So it's still a lot of inefficiency over here. Pepe BTC could easily come back down into this lower block. All right, what else? Let's just quickly see. Is there anything against BTC that's won? Very, very, very few things. Just hype, maybe. Where's hype? I think I saw hype over here. Hype. That's hype against ETH. No, hype against BTC. This is hype BTC. So hype BTC is still holding up. It's one of the stronger coins that are out there. This is obviously going to be a very significant level that you want to hold. All right, guys. Yeah, let me know if there's anything else. What else you want? The pain is real, says Bongo NL. The pain is real if you heavily allocate it into altcoins. I think that's the lesson. have at least a dollar cost average portfolio purely into Bitcoin. Everyone should have some sort of a HODL portfolio for Bitcoin. And yeah, tomorrow I'll show you how this is changing the landscape for Bitcoin, specifically this little device. So make sure you watch tomorrow's show. That is it from me. Do not sign up to Whale Room. Do not, I repeat, do not sign up to Whale Room. Wait until Monday. I'm going to try arrange something special for you guys. I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day and cheers for now.